Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Richard, the Dick Coughlin, 666. The last two videos I've done stemmed from a particular video I'd found on YouTube made by a user called illuminatiTV. He is a horrid pile of useless, dried up, 3-week-old, crusty foreskin eczema, and I thought, whilst he's still here, I might as well see what I can find out about the man. Now, contrary to what a lot of people have said, a lot of people came to me saying, you know, this guy is a satire, this guy is playing a character. No, he's not. The one piece of evidence that is the killer blow for me is the fact that his videos are featured on, and he regularly posts on the website WorldNet Daily, which is about as right-wing, fundy, Christian mental case as you can get. He's a complete cunt, is the best way to describe it. That's the nicest thing the vicar will say about him. Now, what I can tell you about this guy is, yes, he is a hardcore right-wing Christian. The usual drill: pro-gun, pro-war, pro-death penalty, anti-gay. He's basically your typical right-wing bigot. I did find some other things out about him. He actually is, his job is an independent filmmaker. He was, and still is, a birther. He's one of these people who believes that Barack Obama was not born in the United States of America. He was born in Kenya. He even was responsible for making several campaign ads for the birther movement. And his name is, as I said, Jason Mitchell. I'm going to tell you something about Jason that you might not have considered. But I've got to tell you a story first. And this is a story about a guy. His name was Vyacheslav Mikhailovich Skryabin. Obviously he was Russian. He is a very, very well-known Soviet politician and diplomat. Because I guarantee you've all heard of this guy. He was a leading figure in the Soviet government for about 40 years. In 1906, he joined the Bolshevik faction of the Russian Social Democratic Labour Party. It was around that time he took on another name, a pseudonym. He chose to call himself by another name. We'll get to that later. In 1911, he enrolled in St. Petersburg Polytechnic and was also on the editorial staff of a underground Bolshevik newspaper called Pravda. Interesting thing about that was one of the editors, the main editor of Pravda, was a guy called Joseph Stalin. In February of 1917, there occurred in Russia what was known as the February Revolution. Bit convenient, really. And Vyacheslav had a lot of standing capital. He was one of the few Bolsheviks that actually had a lot of standing capital, which made him one of the elites. It was around this time Molotov sort of became a protege and a very close adherent to Stalin. In 1930, Vyacheslav became chairman of the Council of People's Commissars, which is the equivalent in Russia at the time of the Prime Minister. He carried out Stalin's line of using a combination of force and propaganda in order to crush any peasant resistance that there would be to the current regime. And during his time, he ordered the deportation of millions, and he sent them to labour camps. I suppose today you might call them FEMA camps. Contemporary historians actually estimate that between 7 and 11 million people died in these camps of either starvation. In 1937-38, Vyacheslav personally approved 372 documented execution lists. There is no record of him contesting any of these execution proposals. In 1938, things got very interesting. Hitler, remember him, invaded Czechoslovakia. In May of 1939, Vyacheslav was appointed as foreign minister. There was then a war with Finland. The Soviet Air Force made extensive use of incendiaries and cluster bombs against Finnish troops and fortifications. And when Vyacheslav claimed on a radio broadcast that the Soviet Union was not dropping bombs, they were actually delivering food. Skipping forward to 1941, Stalin took over as the official head of the Soviet government. A trade agreement was concluded on August on the 18th of August, and on the 22nd of August, von Ribbentrop, who was Hitler's foreign minister, flew to Moscow to conclude a formal non-aggressive treaty with Yechlev. The most important part of the agreement was this secret protocol, and in this protocol it gave Hitler the green light to invade Poland, which began on September the 1st. He is the only person, he's believed to be the only person to have ever lived who shook hands with the following people: Lenin, Stalin, Khrushchev, Mao, Hitler, Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Tito of Yugoslavia. What's my point? Well, here you've got a guy. He was a propagandist. He had very radical views, very much a warmonger. He was actually a teetotaler and a vegetarian. They promoted their agenda. They showed no concern. They would also blatantly lie. You're now sitting there going, what the hell does Yechlev have to do with Jason Mitchell, a white fundamentalist Christian? Remember earlier on I said that in 1906 he took on a pseudonym. He chose to give himself another name. He wasn't known as Yechlev Mikhailovich Skriabin. He was known as Yechlev Mikhailovich Molotov. Molotov was what he became known as. He became known by that one word. Remember I told you in the Finnish War, he had lied about them dropping bombs on top of the Finnish people and claiming they were food parcels. They responded by using alcoholic, very flammable liquids in glass that were lit and then thrown. And they became known as the Molotov cocktail. What does this have to do with Jason Mitchell? Well, Jason Mitchell does not call himself Jason Mitchell for his channel. He is known, and has always been known, by his nickname that he chose, you guessed it, Molotov. Now, why would a man who does nothing but talk about the evils of socialism and communism and compares people constantly to, including his own president, to people like Stalin, why would he choose a guy whom he speaks out against and tries to use in order to demonize people on the left? Yes, I'm on to you, Jason. I know your game, comrade. I see what you're doing. You are a communist. You're putting on an act, deliberately manipulating and twisting things in order to confuse the bewildered, inbred, thumbless George Bush voting fucktards who watch your videos, who will swallow anything you give them literally, because you would say constantly, you constantly bring up Hussein. But I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, Barack Obama was born with that name. Now what's worse, being given the name that happens to be the same as a mass murdering dictator, or choosing to call yourself by a name that was the same name that was chosen by a guy responsible for more deaths in the political positions he held. Barack Obama can't help that he's a Hussein, but you choose to be a Molotov, and you're certainly a cock, and you are completely fail. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the shocking truth exposed. This is Jason Mitchell, Molotov cockfail, the man who wants you to be put in a Labour/FEMA camp, the man who is basically an elite which he'll speak out against. The man is straight edge. The man doesn't drink. The man will lie. He will twist the facts just to make sure that you can't know the truth about what he's got in store for you. Don't fall for this man, ladies and gentlemen. Spread the word. Jason Mitchell, illuminatiTV, is a fucking commie prick. And that is what we call here on the internet. And I'd get used to hearing this term, because it's going to happen a lot to you from now on. That is what we call pwned. Richard the Dick Coughlin, 666. Good night. And may God bless.